It's 7 p.m. And do you know what time it is? It's buffer time. Actually, it's time for another installment of Mission Log Live. I'm Norman Lao, and I'm really excited to come up from the lower decks, finally, to talk to you all about, well, lower decks. So make sure to call and chime in, click on the Zoom meeting link, or use the one tap from your smartphone, or call us at 699-900-6833 and enter the meeting code. All those details are available to you in the Facebook chat or on your screen. And Earl is standing by to take your calls. Let's take a look at what's going on in the chat room here. If I can actually bring up the chat room. I'm not John, so, obviously, right? So John's really good at this. I'm just kind of like, working my way through.
Lower decks are truly running wild today.
We are. Margarita time. So we have Chris Raker, David Allen Brown, Alan Perry, Steve. Well, no, Steve says, we'll look forward to seeing the show in the UK. Have fun, everyone. So we'll see you later, Steve. You'll see us later. Thomas Kozak, Sean Lennon. Hey, there's Chris Raker all over the place. Lou's here. Paul Harveth is here. Pete Archibald is here. Hey, Pete, how you doing? Brian Michael Warman. 3 names, very difficult to get through.
He's going for that Brian Michael Bendis feel.
Yeah, exactly. It's very important with the 3 names. Paul Wright Jr., again, with the Pauls, our show is very famous with all the Pauls. So thanks, everyone. David Takechi, thanks for coming here. Kate, thank you for coming in. John Champion's here. Really? Well, why aren't you working, bro? Oh, you know why? Because he's a commander, and commanders don't work. They just command. Right?
Yeah, I mean, why would you even want to be an officer? All they do is all the boring stuff. Talk about protocol.
I don't know why you're not voicing a voice for Lower Decks. You sounded just like a Lower Decks character. That was amazing. Somebody get her on Lower Decks. And speaking of her, welcome to my co-host, Ashley V. Robinson. How are you?
The V is very important. Ashley Robinson is a WNBA player. I don't want to fight for SEO.
Ashley V. Robinson is with us again for our 3rd installment of Lower Decks. So I'm glad to have you here. How you doing?
I am doing so good. Dying of heat, stroke, and smoke and fire. Apparently, we live on Vulcan now, which I'm not against personally. I love a good Vulcan, but no, I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing, our new captain?
I'm nervous like Boimler, but don't worry, I'll get us all straightened out at the end. And hopefully, maybe John will bestow upon me the greatest, worst accolade in the universe.
I hope he gives you a plaque.
I hope I get a statue with an eagle. That's what I really hope. The great bird of the galaxy. It's
so funny. Good. Such a good Easter egg.
Right? I love stuff like that. And Lower Decks is like rife with Easter eggs, and they make me smile so much. I just want to catch everyone up on kind of like where I'm at, because I haven't been able to talk about Lower Decks a lot, for the first 2 Mission Logs Live. Or is it Mission Log Lives? I think it's Mission Logs Live grammatically. Who knows? They didn't give me that test at Lower Decks Academy.
It's not part of the Kobayashi Maru at all.
No, there really isn't a no-win scenario with grammar unless you're actually hit by the grammar police, of which happens.
Have you been to Twitter lately?
I try. I try not. And it's funny. I was trying to fit you into the intro, and then somebody commented and it's like, "You're leaving Ashley out in the cold." No, I didn't leave Ashley Robinson out in the cold. I brought in Ashley V. Robinson from the cold.
That's right. Also, I'm Canadian, so I'm good with the cold. No big deal. Like my captain, William Shatner.
Yes, from Canada, Toronto, yes.
He also started in Stratford, Ontario, and I'm from Stratford, Ontario. So we have a deep connection, me and this man I've never met.
From what I understand, he and Christopher Plummer worked together in the Canadian Royal Shakespeare Company. And I don't know if it's true, but I like to believe it's true, that the reason why he has his style is because every time he was brought up as an understudy for Christopher Plummer, he wasn't exactly sure of his lines, so he had to catch up, pause, catch up with everything else.
I would like that to be true, especially because Shakespeare is so particular and it's so about the rhythm. So that good dramatic pause could save you when you're reading the lines in your head. I like that. We're going to say that's true.
I like that. That'll work for me, and it works in definitely my headcanon for Shatner. So I just want to let all the listeners know that what's coming up here on Mission Log, we have a very special interview that we released today, August 24th. Our interview with Walter Koenig, who plays Chekhov, but more importantly, who played Mr. Al Bester on Babylon 5, our resident telepath extraordinaire. So it's a really, really amazing conversation. It's very candid. He let down a lot of walls, and he draws you in with his stories. Have you had a chance to hear that yet, Ashley?
I haven't. It's in my queue. So it's the thing I'm going to be listening to actually when we wrap today. But I'm dying to hear it because I love the very handsome Mr. Walter Koenig.
It's in your continuum, right?
Yes.
Your queue continuum, quote unquote. So hopefully everybody has a chance to listen to that. I really encourage you to, because he has some really fantastic stories that you probably may not have heard. It sounded like with a couple of them, they were revealed for maybe the first time or haven't been repeated for a while, and really allows you to get into kind of like just where he is right now in his personal space. So I think that's fantastic. Now, one thing we also have to talk about is this really interesting, I guess it would be a contest to try and figure out who stole all of Rod's assets from the Sansar VR room. I just watched the promo ad for that, and I think that's really funny. I think that Rod is a great sport doing that. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, so join the Roddenberry Recover mission in Sansar. Sign up free at sansar.com and join the scavenger hunt for all the missing artifacts from the Roddenberry Museum. You can play in VR mode or any PC running Windows 7 or higher. Hopefully you're running Windows 7 or higher. And the winner will get an Oculus Rift. And runners will get Amazon gift cards. What? Yeah. So if you're not playing in VR now and you win the contest, you'll be playing in VR later. And I think that's super cool. So today's clue, make sure that you listen carefully. Open up your subspace frequencies. Listen carefully. Clues may be more difficult than they seem. This is a clue that is fit for the silver screen. I'll say that again. Clues may be more difficult than they seem. This is a clue that is fit for the silver screen. And away you go. Boom!
Somebody somewhere knows it immediately.
Unfortunately, Ashley, I was going to ask you about the polls, but something happened, and I don't know if it's buffer time, too many margaritas, too many ensigns running around, running into each other, trying to get our poll numbers up, but our polls just aren't working this week on Facebook.
Sad face. I think our head engineer may be on shore leave because, and listeners don't know this, but there have been many technical questions floating around the Mission Log Live ethos today. So, but that's okay. We'll get back to that next week and we will answer everyone's questions. We'll chat about everyone's opinion then.
I had one that I talked about with John, and you might dig this one, and maybe the listeners might dig this one, but the question is, who would you like to see more shipped in the future of Lower Decks? Would it be Tandy and now I can't remember his name. Rutherford, thank you. Tandy and Rutherford, or Mariner and Ransom?
The correct answer is Tandy and Rutherford. I think in my notes I have a note about Mariner and Ransom, but we'll get to that when the episode. That's a great question because last week all my comments were me being like so excited that we're talking about this couple. I ship them so hard.
Yeah, they're cute, right?
They're so cute.
And we'll see what happens. And who knows? Maybe a future character might throw a monkey in that wrench. Who knows?
A monkey?
Yes, a monkey in the wrench. And a monkey on Lower Decks would be amazing. Tell me it would be. Right? An ensign monkey. Oh, actually, it doesn't even have to be an ensign. It could be just a crewman monkey.
What if it was like an admiral, though? What if they were the highest ranked officer, was a simian of some type?
Oh, I am on board
as an inversion of our human evolutionary expectations.
We'll have to talk to Mike and Chris Kula about that and see if we can make it happen for season 2.
Mike, you can call us at any time. We're very hireable. We'll work at a reduced rate because no one's working right now.
So what do you say we jump into a recap here? We'll do a recap and then we'll have some callers call in. We have callers lined up, ready to take, talk to us about Lower Decks this episode, talk to you. And I'm going to sit back and kind of like let you guys do all the heavy lifting because you guys are pros. And
alrighty.
I'm just a Lower Decks ensign. So here we go for Lower Decks, episode 3, Temporal Edict. After Ensign Boimler's violin concerto is hijacked by Ensign Mariner's need to get her medal on, with enough subspace base to offend even a Klingon captain, the USS Cerritos heads towards Cardassia Prime for a very special ceremony. Or at least that was the plan. Turns out that First Officer Jack Ransom has some bad news for Captain Freeman. She's been reprioritized from this once-in-a-lifetime in a career peace summit to ferry gifts to Galrac 5, causing the captain to bemoan the USS Cerritos' reputation as the ship seen by Starfleet as a joke, but doesn't know why. In the brig, the Lower Decks crew successfully tests the field integrity of a holding cell's force field, and afterwards, Boimler and Tendi learn a very valuable lesson. Never tell the commanders how long it actually takes to finish a job, because of a well-known Lower Decks tradition of enjoying margaritas during buffer time, aka breaching protocols as a team. Friendship! Meanwhile, Captain Freeman surveys the ship and, much to her annoyance, notices that her crew isn't as optimal as needed. A fact further punctuated when she engages Boimler in the turbo lift and grills him after he tries to impress the captain with his to-do list, which included skipping buffer time. Before Boimler can explain how he let slip the Lower Decks kept secret, a ship-wide edict commands them to boldly go where they have never gone before, on the clock. But hey, they're Starfleet. They're the best of the best. What could possibly go wrong in a week? Cut to everything. The Cerritos Lower Decks crews have gone from generally efficient to universally mayhem. Except for Boimler, that is, overachieving as he is wont to do, as he loves purging systems. Purge, purge, purge. Purge, purge, purge. Purge, purge. Running late for duty, Mariner is chastised by Commander Ransom as they load up the shuttlecraft Yosemite and head towards Galrac 5 to deliver a very important honor crystal. However, when they finally meet with the Galracian envoy, it turns out by rushing to prep this meeting, the Bullion Ensign Vendam packed the wrong case. Instead of the Galracian honor crystal, they had wood. Insulted beyond belief and beyond Commander Ransom's ability to peacefully negotiate the situation, no matter how impressive his command power stance was, the Galracians capture the landing party while also sending assault ships and boarding parties to attack the Cerritos. Mired in their own endless chaotic loop of project deadlines, the Cerritos crew can't even deal with the Galracians, who have not only boarded the ship, but graffitied it as well. Always wanting to do more, Boimler finds himself not only taking down a few raiders, but making his way onto the bridge and realizing that even the captain is more distracted with her efficiency clock than the Galracians. Back on the planet, Mariner and Ransom are having it out in Galracian prison. Mariner accuses Ransom of being a poser of an officer, while Ransom calls Mariner out for being insubordinate. Yes, I too feel the sexual tension rising. They can't even agree on which of them will use a sword given to them to fight the Galracian pit champion Vindor to save the crew by right of combat. Pulling the sword from Mariner's hand, pulling rank, but most importantly, pulling his shirt off. Ransom stabs Mariner in the foot and off to face Vindor. But he tosses the blade aside and in a series of textbook double-axe handled combat maneuvers that Mariner's trying to convince herself are not hot, but really are, Ransom defeats Vindor and saves his crew from being crushed by a giant geode. So ethical. As the Galracians nearly breach the turbo lift to the bridge, Ensign Boimler makes one last-ditch attempt to convince the captain that she needs to delegate and let the crew take care of their duties as they did before. Once convinced, Captain Freeman dictates a new order to fight off the Galracian invaders, and after beating back their entire boarding party, the captain realizes that there is room on her crew for buffer time. In fact, she even makes it official, calling it the Boimler effect. Mariner and Ransom come to a realization that they both have a little bit of admiration for each other and definitely love seeing each other outside of the uniform. But for Ransom, duty always takes precedence and has Mariner hauled off to the brig, and her response left him kind of hot and bothered. So ethical. Boimler, wondering what will ever come of this somewhat warped accolade that has been bestowed upon him, one thing is for certain. Somewhere off in the far future, the Boimler effect is still revered, even memorialized in a statue, and spoken of in good company with the greatest hero of Starfleet ever, Chief Miles O'Brien. The end. And Go, Ashley.
I just love Miles. I love you, Space Nine. It made me so happy. And as a fan of the Miles O'Brien at Work comic strips, I thought it was so great that we saw him posed at the console like that. I was like, oh my God, this is everything. Next, tell me how Julian and Garrett got married. It's all I want. It made me so happy in my little Niner heart.
Now, you have a ton of great notes here, like talking about some of your favorite moments. So let's hear what you have to say. Like, what really stood out to you? What did you like chuckle with? Like, just laugh out, guttural roll with?
Oh,
what
man.
was good for you?
When we were originally going to Cardassia Prime, I was so excited because, like you said, big Deep Space Nine fan, very not so low-key obsessed with the Cardassians. I think they are one of the greatest looking races. I truly think they are so beautiful. And like they said that, and I like had my hand, I was like, yes, Mike is giving me what I want. And then the Galrakians are really fun, really cute. My first round of notes, I'll say Galra because I'm also a Voltron fan. But
nice.
yeah. So that was my first like moment of real glee in the episode. It was like, Cardassia Prime, what? And it's not a place, it's not an environment that we've seen a ton of. So I thought there was going to be a lot to mine there. But also as a crystal collector, I was pretty happy with what we got.
Are you bummed that you didn't see an animated Cardassian in this style?
Yes, but there's lots of time left. So
Sure.
I am hopeful that we will see one because the Bajorans are really giving me life. And so are the Andorians. They're so freaking cute in this style.
Mm-hmm. You got to love those animated antennae, right?
And this is way jumping ahead, but in the final scene, like we mentioned, where we see the class of kids, there's a little tiny baby Borg. And I am afraid of the Borg. I think they are so scary and so effective, but just a little baby Borg was so cute. So I like what it implies that the Borg are now part of at least this education system, if not Starfleet. Like there's a lot of interesting story to mine there because this is part of the grander canon as well.
Yeah, I love that scene. I love seeing just kind of like the future and seeing all the kids learning about all this kind of stuff. And it's the more and more I watch this show, the more and more I'm actually really falling for it. Like I said, it wasn't really my cup of tea at first, and it starts to just work on me until you see scenes like Boimler in the elevator, like singing or humming the Star Trek TNG hymn. And I mean,
is that the moment where you were like, okay, I'm on board?
Actually, I think the moment I was on board when the Klingon captain was like, "Are you mocking me?"
Mm-hmm. And then just willfully murders his engineer.
The engineer, today you die.
They do good with the Klingons. The Klingons are very funny in Lower Decks.
Oh yeah, totally. Before we get to a couple of the callers, because we have a lot of callers lining up, how about a couple more of your favorite moments?
So I loved in the opening scene with the white violin. I'm watching Umbrella Academy right now, and it gave me like Umbrella Academy vibes. And I was like, ooh, Vanya, I see. Obviously, it didn't work out quite the same way. Nobody got murderized, at least that we saw. So that was cool, just as a comic fan and like as a nerd. I loved all of the discussion when we were first introducing the idea of buffer time, like, yes, Lower Decks, we're friends, breaching protocol together. Well, we're the funniest joke in Starfleet. Like, there's a lot of real meta commentary in this episode, which is something that I think animation gives you a real advantage of. So I liked that we were referencing back to not the show within the show, but like, yes, we know that we're the animated, funny Star Trek series.
Yeah. Well, wait, hold on a second. Something did get murdered. The violin itself got murdered.
That's, you know what? Fair.
Yeah.
R.I.P. the white violin.
Right. The white violin got straight up brutalized.
Yeah. Were you a fan of Mariner's hardcore song?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She just threw down. She's like, enough of this. We're going full metal and just rock that bass. And bass so loud. It reminded me of that scene in The Hunt for Red October when you could actually hear like the choir like through the water. This is like you can hear her bass like through space. Much to like the Klingon captain's annoyance, which I thought was super funny.
Soon to be on ringtones everywhere, I'm certain.
Yeah. So what do you think? You think we should take a few calls here?
I think let's do it.
All right. So first up here, Earl, let's have Chris come in. So Chris Bauer.
Knows it in and out.
Hey, what's up, Norm? Good to see
buddy?
you.
Good to see
Ashley,
you too.
Nice
good
to
see
meet
you both.
Yeah, I'm out here. This is my cooling head covering. I'm out on my porch, having porch date with a friend. And so I wet this thing down and it evaporates. It keeps me cool. Yeah, very nice.
That is some
Very
high-tech
smart.
stuff, man.
Yeah, but no, I like this episode. Very big fan of the O'Brien joke at the end. Also a big fan of the comic, Ashley. I see you. I respect
Thank
you. Good
you.
stuff.
Thank you.
No, but I really like, I will say after episode 2, I was getting a little concerned that we were going to fall into the trap of like, Boimler will always be wrong and Mariner will always be right. And I like that this week, each of them get to sort of grow a little bit. That Boimler gets to say that, yes, while I may like all the rules, I get that that's not something everyone can do. He has his little moment at the end. And similarly, Mariner has her sort of moment with Ransom in the sick bay where like, I may be the sort of, feisty troublemaker, but you remind me about sort of the good that is Starfleet and why I'm here. So I like that we're getting a little bit of character growth because I know that sometimes in sitcoms and in animated shows especially, it's hard to do character growth just to the nature of the show. The nature of the sitcom is that people stay the same and you get the comedy out of those dynamics. And so to see just that little bit of growth was very nice to see. Yeah.
I think that with Boimler, and maybe it was the first episode that, again, I have to watch again and I have to settle with, but there is kind of like almost like a forced earnestness that was there. But I think it's purposefully done to show that there's a super eager ensign who wants to please like everybody that's higher in rank, especially on the bridge. And I think that with Mariner's, maybe with her influence and a little bit of her expertise, she's kind of cluing him into, look, you can be a great officer. You just don't have to be everyone's expectation all the time, all at once. You're going to be great. You just have to kind of settle into your greatness. What do you think? Am I off base there, or do you think that that's kind of the case?
I mean, I think you've definitely.
No, go ahead.
Oops, sorry. I think you've definitely nailed it, and I think that sort of ties into skip a little bit again to sort of morals, meanings, messages of this episode is that we need a little bit of Boimler and a little bit of Mariner in order to function, because the idea of how rules work within Starfleet is very strange and suspect because we have all these hard and fast rules, but in order to make entertaining television, I mean, how many times have we broken the prime directive by every captain and every ensign and I want to say lieutenant because I'm kidding, every lieutenant? Like, the Starfleet rules are hard and fast, but they are narratively made to be broken. And we do need a bit from both, I think. Well, in order to have an entertaining television show, but also in order to push the boundaries of strange new worlds.
Yeah, and I think that with Boimler and Mariner, you're seeing them kind of like at opposite ends of the spectrum. And, one's super clean, one's super rambunctious or rebellious, and a little can rub off on each other and make both of them really, really good and interesting characters. And maybe, this is just my theory though, but maybe somewhere along the line, maybe Mariner was Boimler. And maybe because,
I think so.
She followed the rules and she was so by the book because of the nature of who she is and who her parents are, that she didn't use her best judgment, her own moral compass, in some way that something went wrong. And she's like, you know what? If I just followed my own instincts and I've listened to rules and regulations, then that, whatever it was, wouldn't have happened. I think that's what's working on her. I don't think I'm far off base there.
No, I definitely agree with you there, Norm. I think that, there was, in the first episode, she said, she used to be a lieutenant or whatever, and she got demoted down. And I don't know if she was ever as, cross your eyes and dot your T's as Boimler is, but I think definitely she, was on some mission. And again, that goes back to the first episode of, I'm going to give the stuff to the little farmer, to the little guy, because the little guy is not going to get noticed by Starfleet, or he's going to get noticed too late. Definitely, I think you're on base there. And just in this episode, similar, I think this idea that, like Star Trek, being a Star Trek officer is a genre, and you can be many types of Star Trek officer. And so I think it's about learning how exactly you're going to be a Star Trek officer. And just, like you were saying, just sort of the learning experience between Boimler and Mariner, and also a little bit, though less so, with Tendi and Rutherford. That other sort of dynamic is sort of figuring out where you fit on the ship and what's your place. Because everybody does have a place. That's sort of the deal with Starfleet. But you have to figure out where it is, and that's up to you, and that's sort of your journey. And I think that's going to be all of the ensigns' journeys as we go forward.
And I think that makes them very identifiable with all of us. I'm sorry, Ashley, I didn't mean to.
That's okay. We're all doing our best through Zoom.
Yeah, right.
I really like the point that Chris made that it wasn't just Boimler v. Mariner, and Mariner is going to be right the whole time to subvert expectations in this episode. And I think they handled that really intelligently by they don't share very many scenes together except bookending the episodes. Whereas for the first 2 episodes, they're kind of pals with their arms locked off to see the wizard. And it was interesting to watch them operate completely divorced of each other for this story.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with you and Chris. I think you guys make great points. Chris, we have time for about one more question for us, and then we're gonna shove you back into the lower decks because your buffer time is almost over.
Chris, are you the extra who's always walking through in your towel that we've seen many times now?
Yes, that is me. You got it correct.
I thought I recognized you.
Oh yeah, I liked this episode. I liked the miles. I liked the space graffiti, and I liked that you can just laser off space graffiti apparently with no structural damage to your wall. That was well, was just like let me just zap that off there. It'll be fine. I'm not gonna like burn any circuits. But no, I like. All in all, I've been liking Lower Decks. Like Norm said, it's been growing on me too. I like the pilot a lot. And then 2, I was like, but it's winning me back with 3. I think 4 is going to be good. 4 seems to be the Mariner v. Mom episode, which I'm looking forward to. But yeah, we're having a good time here on the Cerritos.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing. You know, we're all enjoying it, you know, for the reasons why we need to enjoy it, you know, and not for what we are expected to enjoy. Right? And
well said. Very well said.
All right, Chris, it's good seeing you, my friend. Thanks for your call.
All right, good to see you, man.
All right, take care.
Hi.
And now our resident our resident Admiral, the great Admiral. How are you, sir? And thanks for always being here.
Oh, I'm doing fine, Norm. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. It's good to see you again.
You too. And you too, Ashley.
Welcome back.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
So what's happening? How did you feel about season 3? I mean, season 3. Well, that's hopeful, huh?
That's 7 weeks away, right?
Yeah.
What is time?
Yeah, it's very wibbly wobbly here. It's really wibbly wobbly. So, I mean, episode 3. How'd you feel about episode 3?
I thought it was, moving more towards the standard sort of narrative structure of a Trek episode, I think, but that's not a bad thing. I think there were less of the list-like moments, right? Mm-hmm. So that was not something that was missed, I don't think. A lot of 47s. A lot of 47s in there.
Oh, I'll have to rewatch. I'm not hip on these kind of things.
Not as many as there could have been, but there were definitely a couple in key spots, especially as when the captain was realizing that, you know, what was going on was, you know, and how to fix it. That there was a 47 on the timer right behind her at that moment, so that was cool. But I'm curious about one thing: is it just me, or do you think that even though they had a lot of tasks, these guys should have figured out how to defeat the boarding parties with spears without having to be told to ignore tasks?
You know, I like to look at this episode as a metaphor for anybody who's ever worked in retail or the food service industry, because I feel that right in my heart and soul. But there are, I think within the gag, there are like, you're absolutely right. Like they're a way less advanced species. Boimler's really the only one who's like, I have a phaser with a stun setting on it. Like, I mean, look, I've been very tired in my time. Anyone who's been on a long haul flight, you know, when your brain is just full of cotton balls. But, you know, maybe the reason they're on the Cerritos is maybe they just eked by in their officer training.
That could be.
The way I kind of saw that is, like you said, it's a metaphor for something. And the metaphor that I took away from that is they're so focused on their job that even like the small things kind of slip by. And that's what the Galrakians were, these small they're small issues, like they're small problems.
Potatoes.
Yeah, they're small potatoes. They're there, but they're not really threatening. They're
like a nuisance. Is that the word?
Nuisance. That's what I'm looking for.
There we go. Teamwork. Lower decks.
Friendship.
Graffiti is not a huge threat to the ship, I don't think, even though there was quite a lot of it. But hey, we know phasers will take it right off. So
yeah, they're just nuisances. And when you're like, I work in an office environment, and believe me, I've walked from the print shop back to my desk, done a bunch of work, went back to the print shop, and then there's a FedEx guy that runs through, never saw him before, have no idea who he is. Then somebody else runs through, need to use your bathroom. Well, it's not a public bathroom, but okay. I never stopped them. I didn't know what was going on. That wasn't my job. My job was to I was on the clock. I was, my buffer time was up. I was there to get my job done, and just people just kind of just kept zipping back, back and forth. I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
But and might you have noticed invaders with spears?
Well,
not if they were going to the bathroom, apparently.
Yeah. And let me tell you something. When I have something hot off the press in both my hands and the ink is drying and all that kind of stuff, I'm like, I got no time for spears, man. I got a deadline to meet. Right? And that's what these people were doing. They were watching the clock. They were watching that countdown. They were like, oh my God, the captain's going to fry me if I don't get this thing done. If I don't purge this, if I don't debus this or degauss this, she's going to have me, on the sling. That's what happens, and it's a nice kind of parody on focusing on something that's really not working, and really not the way to go about running a starship, and having somebody to say, if you do this because of these metrics and hit these markers and hit these milestones, we're going to be a great crew. That's not what a great crew does. A great crew works together, finds their strengths, finds their weaknesses, leans on each other, learns from each other, and grows. Right? We're not robots. We're not cogs in a wheel, and we all have individual needs and wants and desires and reasons to perform well. And those reasons are margaritas.
Some of us are also part robot, to be fair.
That's because
Rutherford. I'm sure there's a Data somewhere aboard.
But Rutherford wants his free time with Tandy.
Yes, they've got a kiss.
Yeah. And not in that Mulder Scully kind of way. We want real.
In the way that she's always featured standing 4 feet behind him?
Exactly.
I have so many thoughts. That's a different show, though.
That kind of points out, though, if you look at it, that if Starfleet was so focused on the tasks and not on who they really are and who they can be, you wouldn't have a Starfleet, right? They'd have ceased to be a long time ago, which then you go to look at how they continue to portray the mirror universe and go, how did they get anywhere? How are they still in space, right?
But some of our most iconic engineers from the Star Trek canon believe in buffer time. I mean, when it's explained,
yes,
it's a lift from Scotty and Relics talking about your expectations with your captain, and so it's interesting to me that this far in the future, it's still no timers and regular. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, right? Bureaucracy is always going to be bureaucracy.
Mm-hmm. And there is also a little bit of a nod to what Riker butted up against, against Jellicoe. Jellicoe wanted a 4-duty shift, or a 3-duty shift. Riker's like, well, we have a 4-duty shift. He's like, no, we can't get it all done. He's like, get it done.
The other way, but
the other way. I had it right the first time. So, but he's like, get it done, Will. Get it done. I don't care how it gets done. Just get it done. Efficiency is the way that we're going to get through this entire thing, right? But that's not necessarily how you work with people. People they're just not models of efficiency. They have their reasons for getting things done in the time that they need to get things done. And as long as it's done in a reasonable amount of time, it lets them be creative and it lets them be, problem solvers and their own kind of personal engineers. And I think that's probably why I love this episode so much, is because there's a huge truth to that. There's a huge truth to letting these people become the officers that they're supposed to be. And we saw that a lot with Mariners and Ransoms interchange, in the Galrakian prison. You can't expect to be a posh officer all the time, even though that's just kind of how she feels about Ransom. And you can't be this kind of, this rebellious, snarky type of person, but there's more to her than that. And then the shirt came off and all bets were off.
Look, I was here for it. I'm more male nudity in Star Trek. It's also, we've seen so many tropes, especially in this episode. There's a ton of Trek tropes. And I thought we would have been remiss if the shirt didn't at least get ripped. And then again, the 2-fist, 2-hand punch. So good. Worf is so proud somewhere.
Well, technically, Mariner's got ripped too, right? She lost a part of her sleeve. So
that's true.
They both had apparel damage.
You're right. Equal opportunity nudity in Star Trek.
And she was showing off all her scars. So
all her
also
scars.
true.
Yeah, and I love the little Jaws reference there. You know, it was pretty much kind of like, Quint and Hooper, showing off their scars, and bonding over those moments. So
I would be totally here for Mariner fighting a space shark. I'm just saying.
Oh, heck yeah. Heck yeah.
But I think the bonding is, as you were saying earlier, part of this is going to be, and I do agree with you, Norman, I think there's a good chance that Mariner might have been the, all by the book all the time originally when she became an officer, when she started into Starfleet because of her mom. And I think what we're going to see is that it takes both of the main characters' attributes to sort of come together into what a real Starfleet officer should be, right?
Well,
for me, that's all classic literary foils, right? Like I love to use the example of Holmes and Watson make a fully functioning human being when they're together. But a more apt metaphor in a throuple situation is Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, right? They all need to come together to be the most efficient, the most capable. And so it's nice to see that dynamic repeated here. Obviously with a little more humor bent, so they're a little more exaggerated. I'm really hoping we get a flashback in the next episode. I just want to see really eager Beaver Mariner busted into Starfleet for the first time.
Yeah, that has to happen at some point this season, right?
And like her whole issue with kind of like the command structure is, I really do think that somewhere along the lines, a ransom type, said, do this, these reasons, I'm doing what I'm helping out, I'm commanding. Right? And she's like, no, this
emphasis
is not how
on
it
the
works.
man.
I love that. He's like, I'm commanding. He's like, wait. Because we don't go until I give the order. Let's roll. But it's all posture. But she thinks it's all posturing, and it kind of is. But then when she starts learning about her fellow, officers, it's kind of not, but it kind of is.
It was a nice humanizing moment for him too, because Ransom could so easily be a really annoying one-dimensional character, and it's nice to see that he's not. Even if this is as much character development as we get from him, I'm super glad that we got it.
Yeah, for sure. And I'd love to see how that develops.
Yeah, obviously he was fully prepared for a court-martial for what he did. I mean, that's the thing. That's the Starfleet commander part that actually fits, right? That's not humor.
And he was ready for it because he believed that he was standing up for his crew. He was going to take that bullet for that phaser shot for him, right? Because it's like no one's going to, run into danger except for me. That's my job. My job's to protect my crew.
And the real question is, how many free weights does he own if he's going to take a long time packing them up?
Well, if he has a room that has, just turned off the gravity plating, he can have as many as he wants.
Just floating around. Oh my God, that's so funny.
Vice Admiral for the win. Somebody call Chris Kula and get him on that, right? Polarize the commander's deck plating so that he has.
I need to see that now. That is canon.
Somebody out there, one of you talented people, one of you talented artists out there, make that happen. Let's see what happens with the mission log. All right, Admiral, we have time for about one more question for us, for Ashley, and then we got to get going on to the next call.
I'll just make it a quick one then. You remember how there was a little teaser for this episode that had the whole wall of conspiracy type stuff, including and that wasn't in the episode. It just made us think it was a time related episode. So do we think we're going to see that in another episode, or is that just a tease for this one?
Oh God, I hope we see it in another episode because I want to know what it means. But in animation, you don't animate something to that extent and then just cut it. Like, they're very specific. It's not like with live action, right, where you can shoot stuff and be like, we'll just cut this 2 minutes. I didn't know that you've broken my brain a little bit.
Yeah, we might see it later because you're right, Ashley. Like, animators, they don't, and the production, they don't throw away scenes that have been generated. They don't throw those, that's money. That's time and money that's already spent. Yeah. So they'll probably appropriate it for later. Or they're just probably playing a huge joke on us. Either way, hopefully.
Mike's like, I've got you.
All right, Vice Admiral, thanks so much for calling in. It's really good to see you again.
You too. Norman, Ashley, good night, and talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. So one of the things that we have to jump into, because we love talking about our favorite prop stuff that we can hold on to and show on screen, as Ashley's doing right now, is let's talk about the Eagle Moss Starships, official Starships collection.
These Amazing. This one doesn't have a stand because I'm a bad props owner. These amazing replicas are officially licensed by CBS. Gotta love that. This one is not, but they are the official Star Trek Discovery starships. And that collection is available only from Eagle Moss Hero Collector. You hear us talk about them a lot. I have a bunch on my desk, and it's because we love Eagle Moss. And this special collection features brand new ship concepts, newer than this one, from both seasons of CBS's Star Trek Discovery. I'm sure they have a bunch of cool ones just waiting to go for season 3 as well. That includes ships from upcoming season 3. See, I already knew what I was talking about. Each has gone through extensive reference study and has been reproduced under the supervision of Star Trek expert Ben Robinson, not related to me, for accuracy and detail. Such good.
Unless it would be Ben V. Robinson, right? That would be closer.
Yeah.
I love that you picked up the NX-01. One of my favorite starships of all time. And they actually make that in an XL. But we're talking about the XL collection from Eagle Moss, the official Star Trek Discovery ships. And you'll notice the first thing that you'll see is that it's going to be the larger ship, like the over 9 inches long ship. And the first ship that you will get if you subscribe to this program is the USS Brand, the NCC 1422. That would be Lorca's ship before he destroyed it for nefarious reasons, as far as I remember. And as Ashley was saying, these are the same type of ships that with the same type of quality materials as you see in the smaller ships. So all the ships in this collection, they're the larger scale. They're made of the same die-cast metal and ABS materials, and they're hand-painted with all the great reference and all the great detail the detail that's provided to us by Ben Robinson. And you'll see that also in those really, really great collector's magazines that come along with those ships, because I know that I do it. Ashley, I'm probably sure I know that you do it. And we pour over page after page after page after page of all these amazing schematics and the breakdown of all the technology in these magazines.
So listeners, viewers, people hanging out with us, what are you waiting for? It is time to start your collection of the Cardenas class. Start with that USS Baran, destroyed by Lorca, as we said, and it is available to subscribers through this special Mission Log Live offer for only $9.95. Y'all don't even know what a good deal that is if you've never shopped at Eagle Moss before, and it comes with free shipping. All you have to do is go to herocollector.com/missionlog. Super easy. Sign up, use the promo code MISSION at checkout. Get it? Branding. Got it from the show. You'll know what's going on. They have a bunch of other models too, including all the old ones that I showed and the iconic USS Discovery, the USS Karela, the reimagined Klingon Birds of Prey. I say it every time, the new Klingon Bird of Prey is so cool. And so many more. And they will ship monthly at an exclusive 20% discount off the standard retail price with continued free shipping. You're supporting USPS.
And I love saying this. I say this on the recorded show. I'll say it on the live show. But wait, Ashley, there's more.
Yes.
Yes. So subscribers are also entitled to free gifts worth over $100.
Whoa.
Yeah. Subscriber.
Whoa.
You can get these really cool free gifts when you visit the website. You can see those at www.herocollector.com/missionlog. And here's the thing that I have to say, but I hope you don't do, but I have to say it anyway. You can cancel your subscription at any time if you want to. But I wouldn't encourage that, so that you can continue your collection and be dazzled with what's going to be happening and how many shelves you're going to need to buy and that extra room that you're going to need to make on your house for your entire collection. Not that I've done it, but I've kind of done it.
Or if you're like us, it's your office.
Yeah, exactly. So here's the thing. I've always wanted to have like what Admiral Marcus had in Star Trek Into Darkness, and just that whole row of ships, from the original Enterprise, from like the Space Shuttle Enterprise all the way to the NX-01 and the Vengeance, right? Yeah, so you can do that. You can do that if you maintain your subscription. But if you don't, you can find all the details about how to continue your collection or cancel your collection at www.herocollector.com/missionlog. Or if you'd like to purchase your ships individually, you can do so online at shop@eaglemoss.com, or you can buy your separate ships at your local comic book shop, support your local store, for the regular price of $54.95 each. Now, as we're lining up a couple more calls, we still have a couple other things that we'd like to talk about here regarding, what we felt was really interesting about Lower Decks 3, and maybe speculate on what's going to be happening with Lower Decks Part 4. So what other things stood out to you, Ashley, in this episode that just, I don't know, when you were sitting down, as we watch, we try and absorb, but all of a sudden you will just bust a gut laughing like, I had no idea they would go that far.
Space, the funnest frontier.
Oh my God.
So good. Boimler, look, I called him a mediocre white guy last episode, and some people were disappointed with that. And he really, this is where I fell in love with Boimler as a character. And I was like, I get you. Okay, I understand. You can stay. Like, I really loved him living his best life amidst this chaos, because it's such a nice contrast to the previous episodes where every time things get really hot under the collar, he is like about to lose all blood pressure and pass out. I loved that. I loved him being described as the huffy ensign. I'm not huffy.
Right.
So good. And then, of course, ultimately, the Boimler effect, like, it was really for Boimler, it was like just a triumvirate of excellence, I thought, in this episode.
Now, one thing that I always thought was interesting about, say, I don't know, all Starfleet martial arts, because I'm kind of like getting into like the whole Deep Space Nine rhythm, and I'm watching a lot of these episodes and I'm picking up on certain things. And there was this episode that John and I just recorded, and it had Sisko like double axe handling, like a soldier that he was trying to get by. What is it with Starfleet and not throwing a single hand punch? Is it always a double axe handle punch? Because they made a big point of that with Ransom in this episode.
From TNG forward, it's pretty consistently that. I thought, and this might be me misremembering an anecdote, please correct me politely if I'm wrong. I always thought that the double axe hand, that was so that it was a distinctive fighting style from what we are used to seeing. I mean, because Star Trek does fall into the trap of being very referential to the 20th century and the 21st century, right? Like, oh, Beastie Boys, it's classic music. Oh, the Monkees, it's like it's kind of the same gag because it's what we, the audience, are familiar with. Mm-hmm. However, one has to wonder, is there only, like, is that the Starfleet martial art? What does, I don't know, Boolean martial arts look like? Like in DC Comics, they have a really strong point of view that Kryptonian martial arts is very different than Earthbound martial arts. But yeah, I don't really know why everybody goes for the two-handed punch, but it was funny.
Now, what did you think about the big reveal of the big, gigantic Vindon at the end being not what you expected him to be?
I loved that. I really like to read.
I know, it was so cute.
He was kind of like, what if Gaston grew a brain halfway through Beauty and the Beast? Like, I would actually really love to see more from that. I know we're never going to go back to the Galrakians this season, but I really love to see more about him. And I love that their leader was like, we're never going to get to crush anyone with our geodes. And I thought they did a pretty excellent job at building out a culture that we're not familiar with, because I checked, and according to the internet, so if I'm wrong, you're wrong, this is their first appearance. So it's not based on a pre-existing side character. So I thought they did a really good job at giving them a full range of characteristics in, honestly, maybe 6 whole minutes of screen time.
And now every time I hear like the TOS reference, obviously we've heard a lot of TNG references, but when Mariner was surrounded by like all the Galrakians with the spears, she's like, oh, surrounded by spears. Who am I, Kirk? What is this, like the 2200s?
So good.
Right? That was so funny. Now
She also referenced Megas 3, which is an animated series reference in an episode that I misnamed in our first episode. I called it Magic to Make the State of Man Go Mad, which is a Discovery episode, The Magic of Megas 3. And I was like, whoa, because we have a Cadian, which is a very on the face reference to the animated series, but I expected more animated series references, and I thought just throwing it away was the coolest way to do it instead of hanging a lantern on it.
Yeah, I really like that. And because of the cadence of the dialogue, everything, I mean, it really moves at a clip, and it's so fast. And maybe that's why I like watching them over and over and over again, because I'm getting more out of the dialogue, and I'm seeing all the little gems and all the nuanced, details and all the little trivia. Now you actually have me like completely like, revisualizing him, the giant alien, as Gaston. You know, like
How do you read this? There's no pictures.
Covered with hair. You know,
that song is amazing.
so I have a whole headcanon going with that kind of thing. So what else? We have a few minutes left in our discussion before we start wrapping things up. So
I'd actually love to ask you a couple of like our beginner questions since this is your first time coming on and talking about Lower Decks.
I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to.
So let's start with easy question. Who's your favorite character so far?
Right now, my favorite character, I know this is a cop-out, and I'm sorry.
No such thing.
My favorite character is the Cerritos.
Really? That's a good answer. Do you like the design? Because the design is very polarizing.
I, at first, wasn't sure, and because I only saw it in 2D. But the Cerritos itself kind of has a character. I love the opening sequence with the Cerritos, you know, where it's kind of like it's sucked into the black hole and it's kind of like powers its way out. Then it's almost kind of like, it just kind of like skins that little ice, ice mountain. And my favorite part of the entire intro, though, is that giant lightning bug sucking on a warp spin cell. I think it's so cute. He's like, look at my eyeball. I'm so cute. Look at me. It's funny because it's menacing, but also adorable at the same time. And I feel that the Cerritos, it's starting to have like its own kind of personality in a way. I know that's weird, and I know that we kind of identify with the Enterprise or even Deep Space Nine as a station as part of the crew. It's part of the story, and I don't really care about like not making sense of this warp nacelle can't transport these people through a Jeffries tube. Yeah, I get that. You know, I've done my reading and I know how the architecture works, but I don't care, right? I like it. It's cool looking. It's fun. And they really do a great job like animating it. Also, as a transplant from the East Coast that grew up in Southern California for the last 20 years, I spent a lot of time in Cerritos. So, especially in a lot of the Filipino sections because they have a lot of great Filipino restaurants in Cerritos.
I was going to say, because that's where all the good food is.
So my aunt and uncle used to take me to a place called Goldilocks, great Filipino restaurant. And it's like, where are we going to Cerritos this Sunday? Are we going to Cerritos this Sunday? So it kind of has a little, special place in my heart, that name.
I think that's so sweet.
And I can't wait until Eagle Moss makes one. XL.
I would have bet if STLV had happened, we would have had a hint. And I bet we'll have a Cerritos by next year.
I sure hope so.
I want one. Yeah. I also think, like I said, I love so many of the character designs. Like, I want action figures of this crew so bad.
Oh, I think it'll happen. I mean, this thing is highly marketable. I mean, we can talk about like the business aspect of it. It's highly marketable. I can't wait to see what they're going to do in 4K when they put this out, in a disc set. And maybe we'll see even more cut footage or even conceptual footage.
That'd be so cool.
Love pouring over because that's and seeing like interviews with all the actors. And for me, the big surprise was Jerry O'Connell because I didn't know that he had that in him. Right?
He was the voice of Superman for a long time. Over in the DC camp.
Oh, I did not know that. See, my Superman has always been Kim Daly. So.
Oh, my heart. Me too. But yeah, Jerry's the voice of a lot of the new movie canon. So.
Okay, cool. All right.
No, he's really good. I think everyone's done a really great job. As like you're not a newcomer to Lower Decks. I actually think Lower Decks is going to bring a lot of people who are like maybe casual Trek fans into the shows. But is there anything that you really want to see them tackle or a cameo or a reference that you would love to see going forward?
Well, see, I like the way that they're handling the references now because they're kind of like tongue-in-cheek references. And that's fine. You don't want anything to be like too heavily in canon, like brought in because sometimes you focus too much on that. And I want to see, this is a new crew, new stories. We're seeing completely new environments. Like you said, the Golrakians are brand new. And that's great. Right? Like, why do they have it? Like, they have such a dilemma with or a conflict, with this other race of wood versus crystal. It's like it's awesome. It's funny, ridiculous, awesome. And I love crystals too. Big Superman fan, big Superman 2 fan.
Yeah, right.
But I don't really have anything that I want to have specifically seen. Like, I don't want to necessarily see like the Lower Decks version of Picard come in because then it changes Picard's tone. And he's out there. He's already been established. Maybe I'm always a big fan of seeing any version of Garrick. So I don't know. Maybe an animated version of Garrick. That would be amazing. Or like say, I would love to see, like, say, Ensign Rowe or
I love Ensign Bro.
yeah, and her come in and just maybe, I don't know, like kind of like maybe show Mariner what's up, because she's an ensign. Mariner's an ensign.
Tough too.
Yeah, and maybe she likes, like, you know, I see what's going on here, Mariner. It's like, I see exactly what you're all about. And maybe she kind of like shakes her tree a little bit. I don't know.
Ooh, I would be very here for that.
Yeah.
Lady fights.
And maybe we get Michelle Forbes on to do the voice. That would be fantastic.
Why not? That's one of the greatest things too about Trek, is that so many iconic performers are still working.
Yeah, and voice acting is a way to get them like completely back into the saddle. I'm a big fan of like the Big Finish audiobooks, so you know, hearing Tom Baker come back as the Fourth Doctor in any version is like literally like the most soothing music to my ears.
When they made Charlie canon during the anniversary for the Eighth Doctor, I was so happy. Thank you for coming to Doctor Who Corner today.
So like coming back to like the original question though, I don't, you know, I really like how they're handling it right now. There's just enough touchstones to like all of the different shows in the series in the 24th century universe that are anchoring the show without stealing its thunder.
Yeah.
Now, if there's one thing I will be completely honest about, and we only have a couple minutes here, so I'll try and be brief. I was telling my friend Charlotte Schmidt, you know, she used to be the former co-host for To the Journey, is another Trek FM podcast about Voyager, and we've been talking about Lower Decks. She loves Lower Decks, and I said I think I would have loved Lower Decks more if, in fact, that I didn't love the Orville when it came out as much. Because
I've seen a lot of comparison between the two, understandably so.
And that's the thing. It's like they're doing a lot of really good live action humor with the Orville, like kind of like self-referential humor and irreverent humor, you know, based on the period that they're in, this 24th century of Star Trek. But I see it live action, and they've achieved great things in that type of tone live action. But I have to separate myself from that and like give like Lower Decks the credit that it deserves as a separate piece of work. And I think that's how I feel about it as an entire addition to the Star Trek universe. Everything doesn't necessarily have to fit into this giant Tetris puzzle of does it work, does it not work, does it work, does it not work. It's its thing. And it works for some people and it doesn't work for some people. And I'm so glad it's working for me, because I wasn't sure if it was going to be honest.
I'm so glad that you said that, because especially now that we're in this sort of Trek renaissance and we're getting all these things in all these different tones, tackling all these different types of story, it can be hard, especially when you've been a fan for so long, to not be like, but this is the thing that I love and this is my specific thing. And I'm really glad that you were like, yeah, we have to appreciate it for what it is. And I'm with you. Like when John asked me to do the show, I was like, I really hope I like it. And I was so glad that I really like, I've been all in from the beginning. But yeah, it is true that all Trek is Trek, especially if it's branded by CBS, and it's definitely Trek. And it's all valuable. And that's what is so beautiful about us as humans and about art and about Star Trek specifically. What a nice note to end on, Norman.
Oh, so well said. So well said. And that's the beauty of Star Trek. You know, I equate it to like, you know, kind of like missing Las Vegas and thinking about the Star Trek convention. I equate pretty much everything when it comes to large choices to a buffet. You know, also because I haven't had dinner yet, I'm getting a little hungry. But you know, in a buffet, you start, you grab your plate, and that plate is your blank canvas on trying to approach whatever fandom it is. It's brand new. There's nothing on it. Then all of a sudden you see something that you really, really, really like. You're familiar with it. So you go there and you like load your plate up with it. But as you're walking through the buffet, you see things like, that looks interesting. It smells interesting. Maybe I'll try that. Maybe I won't. And then you have your meal and you're like, you know what? I kind of like those other things. Or maybe I just should try those other things. And you start expanding your palate. And then you realize that the things that you said that you didn't want to try, you tried, you're like, what have I been missing my entire life? Why have I not eaten bacon until now?
Oh, no. Right? Tragic.
You know? Or spam or whatever. But it's...
Oh, but for real, though, spam is excellent.
And some people won't try it, and I get that. But basically, I'm just trying to, like, anecdotally, I'm making a huge humorous point on the great thing about Star Trek is that there are now so many different ways for people to be able to not only insert themselves in the fandom, but be able to connect with people that they've never been able to connect with before on a different level. because animation, aside from the original series animation, the animated series, animation hasn't really been in the forefront. And there are a lot of fans out there, younger fans, that really love animation. And they really want that to represent their part of the fandom. And now it is being given to them. And do they care about the reverence to the seriousness tone of Star Trek? Maybe, maybe not. But the great thing is that they can have a conversation about it now. And they can talk about, wow, my fandom is being represented now in two ways, with animation and now with Star Trek. And now I can start cosplaying that stuff and looking for white boots, and all that kind of stuff.
The delta on the bottom of their boots makes me so happy. It looks... I love the uniform. I think the uniforms look great.
And cosplayers will go there, and they better, because all I want to do is roll up to the I-bar in the Rio, if Star Trek Las Vegas is still there, and see someone kick up their feet and see the Cerritos logo on their boot.
I mean, margaritas will abound in Quarks next year. I'm speaking in the universe that it's happening next year because I want to go next year.
And so fingers crossed, or what crossed?
That's so funny. I've been dying for that scene since it was in the trailer. Don't give me that sarcastic Vulcan salute.
Well, folks, we're right about on time here, and we were trying to get in Captain Lou, but Captain Lou wasn't able to join us. So next time, Captain Lou, we'll try and get you on the show. Ashley, thank you so much for such a fantastic conversation. It was really a pleasure to actually meet you and talk with you. I've been a big fan of yours, since the Red Shirt Diaries, and I kind of gushed about that at the beginning of our show. But it's been a pleasure actually having you here as co-host. So I hope you had a good time too.
I had an amazing time, and I've been listening to your DS9 episodes. So this is a real treat for me as well.
Oh, I hope you like them. I've said some things. I hope you like them. So anyway, I just want to let you know about all the housekeeping stuff that I have to say at the end of the show before we clock out. So Mission Log Live is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment, executive producer Rod Roddenberry. Technical production on Mission Log Live is done by I didn't write this, somebody wrote this, the incorrigible Earl Green. I should say the immaculate Earl Green. Be sure to visit podcast.roddenberry.com for the latest, the Roddenberry Podcast Network, including not just Mission Log, but also Women at Warp, Priority One, The Trek Files, your daily Star Trek news, and Shabam. That's your cue.
Oh, is it?
Shabam! I'm just saying, that's what we do.
Oh, I was like, it's not in my collar.
I'll do it one more time. The Trek Files, your daily Star Trek news, and Shabam.
Shabam.
There we go. If you'd like to support Mission Log directly, hey, give us a look over there at patreon.com/Mission Log. Thanks everyone who joined us live, and thanks for we can't edit this. So thanks to everyone who joined us live or will join us later. Stay safe, stay healthy. We look forward to seeing you next week.